Hey guys, it's Morgan, and today I'm going to be doing a book unhaul. So most of these books I just have duplicate copies of, and then there's 4 that I didn't like or DNF'd, and then there's 2 that I'm just not ever gonna read. So we'll start with the ones I have duplicate copies of. The first one is Intensity by Koontz. If you don't know what this book is about, it follows this girl who goes with her friend to visit her friend's family from college, and while she's there, a man breaks into her friend's house and kills everybody and kidnaps her friend, and so she stows away in his motorhome to try and save her, and he's this crazy serial killer, and she finds out some crazy things about him, and all this stuff happens, and it's a really, really awesome book. I really loved it. It was my first Koontz book, and it was a very good book, so I will continue to read his books. So I don't actually have a copy of this, but my dad does. And so we both buddy read this book, and I feel like since he has a copy, I don't need one. His is a lot nicer. Mine's kind of falling apart. The pages are falling out. So I didn't need this one. The next book is The Hunger Games by Suzanne. So this is a duplicate. I found this book in a hardcover. I had the second and third in hardcover, and this one in paperback. So I was super excited when I found a hardcover. If you don't know what this book is about, it follows this girl named Katniss, and she lives in a place called District 12. And every year, the 12 districts select 2 kids to participate in something called the Hunger Games, 1 girl and 1 boy from each sector, so there's 24 altogether. And Katniss, her sister, is chosen, and she volunteers in her sister's place. Because basically the Hunger Games is a fight to the death, and 1 person wins. 1 person can live. So out of 24, 1 survives. And so she volunteers in the place of her little sister, and it's her survival through the Hunger Games. The next book I haven't actually read, it's called CHERUB. It's Mission 3 Maximum Security by Robert Muchamore. So I found this at the thrift store. I got it for $2.50, and when I went on Book Outlet to get the first 2, I found the first 6 for $19. So I just decided to get the box set, and since I already have a copy of this, I don't need a duplicate copy. All I really know about this series is it's kind of like Kid Spies, I'm thinking. Well, the first book is called Recruit, so they're like, the main character is recruited, and each book is a different mission where they have to go undercover. So I'm really excited to read it. It sounds like the Alex Rider series, which I really love, so hopefully it's good. The next book I also haven't read. It's Artemis, Fowl, The Lost Colony by, I always want to say Eoin Colfer, but I'm not sure how to say the first name. And all I know about this series is there's magical beings like fairies, and the main character is Artemis Fowl, and he's from a very rich family, and that's all I really know. I did read the first chapter of the first book in a try a chapter book tag, and I was intrigued by it, so I do want to read them, but I already have this copy, or this book, and this copy is in a lot worse condition than the other one, so I don't need 2 copies. The next book is Point Blank by Anthony Horowitz. It's an Alex Rider book. It's the second one in the series. The Alex Rider series follows this kid named Alex Rider, and he, in the first book, is recruited by MI6 to become a spy, and each book is a different mission where he goes undercover. I have all the books in the series, but I got this one because I didn't know if I had this version of it, and I want them all to match, and it turns out I already did, and this one isn't in very good shape, so it's got like juice or something on the bottom, and the pages are kind of gross, and there's writing inside. But I got it just because I wanted my books to match, and it turns out I already had this one, so I didn't need it. The next 2 books are New Moon and Eclipse by Stephanie Meyer. So I had the first one in the 10th anniversary edition, so it was Twilight and then Life and Death, and then I had these 2, and at the library book sale that my library had a little while ago, I found the 2nd, 3rd, and the 4th, which I didn't have, in hardcover, so I don't need the paperbacks. I'm just gonna keep the hardcovers. If you don't know what Twilight's about, it's about this girl who falls in love with a vampire, and there's other vampires, and there's werewolves, and romance, and lots of stuff, so that's what the series is about. The next book I DNF'd. It is Prophecy of the Sisters by Michelle Zink. I read maybe 3 chapters, 2 chapters, and it was like 30 pages, and it was just so boring, nothing really happened. There was a funeral, and yeah, I wasn't interested. It just was not grabbing my attention at all. I do really like the cover, it's really shiny and pretty. But I was like avoiding reading because I didn't want to read this book. And so I was like, well, I'm not going to force myself to read it. And I don't feel like I'd ever want to read it. I'll just get rid of it. So I have no idea what this book is about. All I know is about these two sisters who are on two different sides of this prophecy. One's good and one's bad. And I thought it sounded good, but it didn't grab my attention. So I DNF'd it. The next 3 books I didn't like. So the first one is The Hooded Man by Jay Bennett. So I read this a long time ago. I read it in October because it's a mystery thriller about this kid named Corey, who in the beginning of this book, his best friend dies. He falls off a roof, and it was nobody's fault. It was a total accident. Him and 2 other friends were witnesses. And then all of a sudden, this hooded man starts killing his friends off one by one, saving him for last. And so the story is pretty good, but the dialogue is really annoying. It's like repetitive. Like they say the same thing twice. And it was just super annoying. I almost didn't even finish it. But it was so short that I just did. And I don't know anybody who talks like that. I don't talk like that. I don't repeat myself every time I say something, and it was just really annoying. So I am not gonna ever read this again because I didn't like it the second time around, and I'm just gonna get rid of it. The next book is Memory Boy by Will Weaver. This book follows this family, and they live on the East Coast, and 2 years before the book takes place, a bunch of volcanoes on the West Coast erupted, and there's still ash falling from the sky 2 years later, and the town, well, it's not a town, it's a city. I don't remember what city it is, but they live in this big city, and there's rioting and looting and burglaries, and so they want to take their family and go to their cabin that they have in the woods, so they're safe away from the city. And it was just really boring and really slow. I did read the whole thing, but I didn't like it. I gave it 2 stars because it was so boring. So yeah, I don't need it anymore. I'll never read it again. And then the next book is One of the Boys by Daniel Magariel. So I got this book this month from Book Outlet. Jesse the reader had read it, and he said that he really liked it, and I read it, and I didn't like it. It's about these 2 brothers who move with their dad away from their mom, and their dad kind of raised them to believe that their mother was a horrible person. She had a hard time keeping a job, and they just grew up believing that everything was her fault. And so the younger, it's in the perspective of the younger brother who's 12, and he lies to the police about something that his mother did in order for them to take the custody from her so they could have their dad could have full custody. And so they end up moving, and it turns out that their dad is a drug addict, and he starts abusing them, and it was really confusing. There was like a lot of flashbacks, and I couldn't tell when it went back to the present. Like, I'd be in the middle of the paragraph, and I'd be like, wait a second, are we talking about the present, or are we talking about the past? And I was so confused, and hardly anything makes any sense, and yeah, I just didn't really like it. It was too confusing. The one thing that I did like about it is the drug abuse that their father endured, and all the stuff he did lots of different drugs. And where I live, there is a huge drug problem here. It's mostly heroin, and it has affected some people that I know, and it's affected me, and that was that kind of struck home for me. But the book was just so confusing that I couldn't really understand what was happening. And so the drug aspect of that, it was interesting to read a book where that was a big part of it, because I've never read a book like that before, and it kind of opens my eyes to what it is like to have a parent who is addicted to drugs, because I have known people whose parents are addicted to drugs, and yeah, it's just really hard. And that's the only reason I was kind of skeptical about getting rid of it, but I probably won't read it again. and so I don't really need to keep it. But yeah. And then the next two books are part of a series. The Garth series. The first one is, the Keys to the Kingdom series. For some reason I think Garth is the name of the series. It's the name of the author. The first book is Mr. Monday, the second book is Grim Tuesday. So I did a video, and it's the Try a Chapter book tag, and I used this one as one of my 5 books, and I read the prologue and the first chapter, which is like almost 50 pages. And the prologue was really confusing, and it was kind of, I don't want to say dumb, but I kind of feel like it was kind of weird, and it didn't really make any sense. So when I got to the first chapter, I still was too focused on what happened in the prologue to switch over to the different perspective in the first chapter, and it just wasn't, it didn't grab my attention at all. I was so confused, and I didn't really want to continue reading, so I'm getting rid of both these books because I've had them forever. So that's it for my Unhaul. It was only 12 books, but considering in the last few months, like 3 or 4 months, I've gotten almost 100 books. My shelves are full, even though I just got a new one, and I need to get rid of more books. But I'm gonna get rid of more books. I'm gonna try and read as many of these books as quickly as I can, so I can get rid of them, so I can get more books, because I love books. So yeah, that's my Unhaul. Sorry if you liked some of those books that I didn't like, but you know, it's okay. I hope you enjoyed, and I'm super excited to have more room on my shelf, which I don't have any room on my shelf. But anyway, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye!